It was so cold there. They searched me and my mom, and then said they would take me away from her.
For more than a year now, this little Ukrainian by the name Oleksandr hasn't seen his mom after Russians separated them in one of the filtration camps in Mariupol.
They took me away and didn't even let me say goodbye. I don't know where she is, and for a year I haven't seen or heard from her.
The boy was lucky. His granny found him and rescued, though his younger sister and mother are still missing.
I have no idea whom to ask about my daughter's whereabouts.
Much like hundreds of Ukrainians throughout the Russian-seized regions.
Every day we receive 5 to 10 requests from people whose relatives were kidnapped from their homes.
This is what the Russian world looks like. Establishment of occupational administrations involving military forces to suppress and prosecute civil resistance is Russia's first steps in the seized regions. Olena Surkova from Kherson is now recalling the day when she became Russia's target as well.
I have painted a Ukrainian flag on my house with the inscription, "Let the spring come." I assume my neighbors gave me up. Then the Russians forced me to take a lie detector test.
The woman managed to evacuate with her son together with many Ukrainians who fled the war from Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk regions.
We've waited to leave the occupied region for a long time. Living there is rather hard. But when we reached the free Ukrainian land, we started crying out of happiness.
Total informational isolation of civilians by blocking Ukrainian internet providers and mobile signals, access to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as to Ukrainian news websites is what the Kremlin does next in the temporarily occupied regions.
There's a huge risk that a part of Ukrainians might have an attitude towards Russians based on disability to get truthful information, so they can be easily deceived.
Instead, the occupiers impose Russian radio and TV broadcasts, together with the printed press, to spread the Kremlin's state propaganda.
The goal is to restrict people's access to the internet and block them from communicating with their families in other cities and keep them from receiving truthful information.
To erase Ukrainian identity and suppress any pro-Ukrainian sentiment, the Russians deliberately destroy sites, institutions, and objects of cultural, historical, and religious significance. Or retitle them into something Russian, like a street in Ukrainian Melitopol that was renamed after the Russian propagandist Daria Duhina. The Kremlin's next move to artificially link the temporarily occupied territories to Russia is forced passportization together with national cleansing in filtration camps and deportation of civilians.
We were just piled up into buses and deported.
In 2014, the presence of a Russian passport proved the fulfillment of the Kremlin's tasks. Today, the Russian Federation reports that 538,000 people have already received Russian passports on the territory of Luhansk and Donetsk People's Republics.
However, many Ukrainian families remain torn apart due to one more reason. Ukrainian men aged from 18 to 55 years old are forbidden to leave the occupied areas, and many remain in Russian captivity.
There are people here whose sons were taken away in an unknown direction.
Some are detained and tortured in specially arranged chambers to extract military information or mobilized to the Russian army and forced to the front line.
They were just hunting men down in the streets, taking them to a commandment or a fake recruitment office, and enlisted them as volunteers. You could refuse joining the army as a volunteer, but had to bring someone instead of you.
Such a tactic is applied to replenish Russian troops with new recruits after military failures and enormous manpower losses on the battlefield.
As we've already discussed, Russia uses these men as cannon fodder, and it'll keep doing so, forcing them to take up arms.
And that's when a Russian passport plays its trick.
If Russians stop a man of a draft age with a Russian passport at a checkpoint, they take him straight to the army.
Meanwhile, those who oppose forced passportization face dire consequences. Russians deprive such Ukrainians from access to social services and payments, basic medical care, and many of those holding Ukrainian citizenship get fired from their jobs, losing primary means for life.
In Kherson, people died from easily treatable diseases. People don't have access to insulin, for instance. Since the war started, Kherson hasn't received any official medicine supplies.
Sexual violence has become another distinctive feature of Russian occupation.
When I opened the door, a Russian soldier instantly punched my face, knocked 2 of my teeth out, and broke my nose. I was covered with blood. He kept on beating me with his machine gun in my chest and head. After that, he stripped me off and raped. He slashed my belly. Those scars are still there. They are deep and still healing.
And stories like this just keep piling up.
The woman had been bleeding for 2 days, and all of that was in front of her daughter. She was raped by Russian soldiers, and they filmed the crime on their phones.
Finally, the youngest Ukrainians suffer mental and physical abuse as well. Education has long been used by Moscow as a key tool to incorporate the temporarily occupied areas into the Russian agenda.
The schools in occupied territory also have the goal of turning them into Russian children. I think they're hoping that in a generation they won't have as many Ukrainians to fight against.
It's done to form Russian civic identity among the students, who are forced to learn the Russian version of history, sing the Russian national anthem, and write postcards to Russian soldiers greeting and thanking them for liberation.
This is a genocide. This is why we have no choice but to keep fighting for our survival, as any of you would do.
Every minute, there's a Ukrainian abused, raped, tortured.
In one of torture chambers, we discovered a separate room. It was a chamber to torture kids.
Or executed in a Russian-seized region.
They had this joke. They drive past you and point a gun at you.
That is why not a single meter of Ukrainian land can remain under the Russian reign, since this is a matter of life and death.
I wish that everything could get back to normal. I want my mom back, together with my little sister.
І щоб сестричка приїхала до мене.